This is the GTN Show, welcome back. Now, we're going to be discussing potatoes and asking whether actual real proper food could be overtaking processed nutrition when it comes to fueling for endurance events. And on the topic of endurance, there's also 2 new world records have just been broken in the world of running.
Well, still on the topic of fast running, we have news, or should I say speculation, of a number of running brands bringing out their own prototype shoes that could rival the Nike Vaporfly 4% and Next% shoes.
Well, back to triathlon, there's been a huge amount of racing we're going to be covering, including the Xterra World Championships and a dominating debut performance by Javier Gomez as he stepped up to the full Ironman distance. And also, we've got some exciting news from a couple of our channel partners.
Now, to start things off on our triathlon news this week, you may remember us talking about 18 months ago on the channel about an age group triathlete from South Africa, Mlengi Gwala. Now, he was attacked whilst he was out on a ride, and it was quite a severe attack. So much so, he hasn't actually made a full recovery, but we kind of have some exciting and nice news to go with that.
Yeah, well, after the attack, it actually caught the eye of fellow South African triathlete Henry Schoeman, who, with a bit of a social media campaign, managed to get some help behind for Mlengi, and some medical treatment enabled him to make as much of a recovery as was possible. Now, he doesn't still have complete use of his right lower leg, but as a result, he's actually been categorised into the PTS5 Paratriathlon division, and recently competed at the Funchal Paratriathlon World Cup, which is great news to see that he is back racing and still got the love of triathlon, and he's now actually set his hopes firmly on Tokyo 2020.
Well, following on from our chats around the Nike Vaporfly 4% and the Next% shoes, and the idea that other brands may follow in their footsteps with their own iterations, well, we have stumbled across some potential prototypes which Running Magazine have kindly collated together for us. So first of all, let's start off with ASICS. Now, many of you out there are probably well aware already that Jan Frodeno wore a set of prototype ASICS or ASICS shoes, however you like to say it, to the Ironman World Championship win just early this month in Kona. Now, he actually wore the same or very similar shoes in Ironman Frankfurt when he took the win there. But apparently, he reported, or someone reported, that they caused some blisters. So they went away, they did some modifications to the shoe, and he actually got the new prototype pair of shoes just before Kona. So you actually saw him racing in a set of prototype shoes that were hand-painted with the ASICS logo on. Now, it is believed that these are quite similar to the Nike shoes. They've got a carbon plate in them, but again, this is speculation, and they'll be coming out around the Tokyo Olympics.
Oh, can't wait to see those. Well, obviously, we've talked a lot about Eliud Kipchoge's shoe that he raced that Breaking 2 or the 1:59:40 marathon that he recorded, but that shoe isn't obviously available for purchase at the moment, and we know that it's got that carbon plate and it's got that Nike Zoom foam in the midsole, but there's been a few other things noticed, and there's a shock absorbing part which, if you used to look on the inside of the shoe, that actually looks like it's just sort of over the toe or the ball of the foot that's supposed to obviously help with shock absorbing.
Yeah, and now Saucony, on the other hand, have yet to officially release or launch their latest racing shoe, but Canadian marathoner Krista Duchesne was actually seen racing in this shoe earlier this year, or seen training in it maybe, and it was an unbranded shoe. She's sponsored by Saucony, but it was the midsole that was quite interesting because that seemed to be split with a black line through it, which again would suggest it's a carbon plate.
Well, Brooks also have a prototype that's been floating around for apparently a couple of years, and it is still unnamed, but it's been spotted on the likes of Des Linden and other American elite runners. And apparently it is going to be launched just ahead of the American Olympic trials for the marathon, which is going to be in February 2020.
Yeah, and one more shoe for you. Rachel Hanna wore a New Balance shoe for the Toronto Waterfront Half Marathon, which again is unreleased. It's hard to make out exactly what the shoe is all about, but the lines again would suggest that it's got a carbon plate.
American ultrarunner Camille Herron has just broken her own world record whilst competing at the 24-hour World Championships in Albi, France. She covered a whopping 270.1 kilometres in those 24 hours. It's 8 kilometres further than her previous record of 262.1, which she set at the Desert Solstice back in December last year.
Whew. Well, whilst we're talking about Camille, now she has been, long been an advocate of potatoes. Yes, potatoes. Now, she's used mashed potatoes in a lot of her ultras as a source of energy, and it would seem like she is actually onto something, because there's some new research out which does come with the slight caveat that it has been supported by the Alliance for Potato Research and Education, which sounds like a riveting organisation.
You love that one, Mark.
Yeah. Now they found that a potato puree, which is essentially mashed potato, is comparable to energy gels in the sense of how much energy it provides to long distance cyclists.
Well, when you're doing an endurance event, you want to take on between 60 and 100 grams of carbohydrate per hour. So how much would that equate to when it comes to potato? Well, apparently 100 grams of mashed potato is about a half a cup, and that gives you around 98 calories or 20 grams of carbohydrate. So if you were wanting to have the equivalent of, say, 2 to 3 gels, then you'd want about 3 cups of potato to get you through. And the researchers have been very keen to point out more of the positives behind this wonderful food. Apparently, the fact that it's obviously going to be a wholesome food, it's got very nutrient dense, and it's also very cheap. And then the other plus factor, which a lot of people might relate to, is the fact that it's savoury as opposed to those really sweet gels that you might struggle to ingest yourselves. Now,
there are obviously a couple of issues with this as well. One of which is obviously with transportation. Transporting mashed potato isn't quite as easy as transporting energy gels. Now, Camille, I believe I've seen her using Ziploc bags and Tupperware before, so that is obviously one very good option for you. The other issue, which was actually reported by the researchers, is that their test cyclists did have some gastrointestinal issues, some pain, and it was reported that they had increased amounts of flatulency. So yeah, those obviously aren't ideal, but they did report that it had the same energy levels as that with gels. That all said, though, this was only a sample size of just 12 cyclists, and also I would be slightly worried for us triathletes with these gastrointestinal issues. Going on to the run may not bode very well.
Yeah, I don't think we should experiment with that one. But there's also been lots of other obviously natural products that have been used by athletes over the past. I mean, honey was something that was used, I think, in the ancient Olympics, and then there's fruit pouches. I think, Mark, you've even used some fruit pouches in the past. So just, obviously fruit is very high in sugar naturally.
And actually, just to bring up on the honey, actually, that is a really nice mix of glucose and fructose, which we're seeing in a lot of these new like beta gels and stuff these days. So actually that was a very good one. And then also we've got guava jellies, which have been used by some cyclists, I'm trying to the Colombian cyclists and whatnot, and that's going to be also a very good source.
Yeah, and then also raisins or dried fruit, but I guess you've got to be, if you get GI problems from potato, I'd imagine too much dried fruit like dates and things might not be such a good idea either.
Yeah, well, we'd actually love to hear from you guys. So would you prefer a natural energy source over gels? Very simple, yes or no, and you can enter that poll by clicking just up there.
Right, we're heading into off-season, so it's time for some new goals. And if you live in the Northern Hemisphere, it might be time to head indoors. So what better time for the Zwift Tri Academy? And I have signed up. Yes, it is time to get fit, but I need a bit of incentive, and what better way to do it than with tens of thousands of other people? So if you want to get on board, it actually starts on the 11th of November, but you can sign up now, and it's open until the 15th of December for signing up.
Yeah, and we are very much looking forward to seeing Heather go through the process. I'm afraid it's going to be cracking and whip back here. Now, the Academy actually is going to be running for 8 weeks, concluding in January. Now, to graduate the Academy, you actually need to get involved in a bit of cycling and a bit of running. So you have to do 6 cycling workouts and 1 cycling race, which is a time trial. Quite fitting for non-drafting triathlon. And you must also complete 4 structured run workouts and 1 running race, and they've got a 5, an 8 and a 10K option. Now when you have signed up to the Zwift Academy Triathlon for 2020, you will see in your workouts menu a little folder that says Zwift Tri Academy 2020, and it will have those structured workouts in there, and those are the ones that you need to do if you want to qualify for that graduation.
Yeah, and you can obviously do more than that, but we're going to be sharing a lot more about it with you guys soon, and showing when I'm going to be doing some of my workouts, so you can join me. And it's not necessarily about trying to get actually on the academy. There's only 6 athletes that make it that far, but it's about getting fit and having a bit of incentive for winter. So if you are interested, you just need to head to zwift.com/academy/try2020, but you can also find that in the description below.
And some final and rather big news from us here on GTN is that we have chosen another bike to add to our very nice roster of bikes, and they have literally just arrived.
Hey, yes, we are going to be riding felt bikes. We have each got an IA disc to ride, which is super exciting. These are the bikes that are ridden by the likes of Daniela Reef and Josh Amberger, and they've actually reached 6 Ironman World Championship wins in total, 5 of those of the rim version and 1 actually as a disc brake version.
Yeah, now I've always been a fan of felt, but I'd never actually ridden on the IA, which is their triathlon bike, until recently when I was in Kona. And I can tell you, Heather, you are in for a treat. So we're super excited to get these bikes built up, get them out on the road, get them in some videos so you guys can enjoy them. Maybe even get a little pro presenter bike out for Christmas.
Why not?
Well, now bring it back for the GTN poll. And last week we asked you, is Cam Wurf going to qualify for the Tokyo 2020 Olympics? And it was a very close poll. 49% of you said no. 51% of you said yes. What do you think, Heather?
I mean, I just think that as Ironman kind of focused, and we can slightly underestimate the speed and the sheer impressive talent that you get at ITU. And I would be massively impressed, and I want him to, but I don't think he will.
Yeah, we did discuss it a little bit last week. I'm in exactly the same boat. I'd love to see him get there, but flip, those guys can go pretty fast at ITU, so yeah. Best of luck. Who
knows? Anyway, it's time to announce some giveaway winners from the Fizik Ventum competition, which we had recently. And we had 3 saddles and 3 pairs of shoes to give away. And the lucky winners are Bernard Sant, Gabriella Hetchenleitner, and Chad Scullen. So congratulations to you guys. You'll have a pair of shoes and saddle on the way to you.
Well, now for the race news, and we're going to start with the big race of the weekend. It was the Xterra World Championships, which always take place over on the island of Maui, not far from Kona, in fact. Now, the race starts with a 1-mile rough open water sea swim, then into a 2-lap 20-mile bike course, then onto a 6.5-mile off-road run with a total elevation of 4,000 feet over the bike and the run course. Now, after really nice conditions all week, the athletes were really tested with a big downpour on the morning of the race, making the riding conditions really slick and really technically challenging. So in the men's race, it was very eventful. We had Sam Osborne leading the swim out, followed very closely by Flora Duffy. Then we had Maxime Shane and Bradley Weiss. Now it's Sam and Brad that really pushed to the front and really took charge on the bike to start off with. They were soon joined by Ruben Ruzafa. And it was actually the hills where Weiss was really kind of showing his strength, and he was pushing ahead. Onto the run, it was Brad and Ruben Ruzafa that pushed ahead. They ran neck and neck, and it's up until about kilometer 4, where Weiss actually pushed ahead, made his move. He went on to take the win, and it's Arthur Serrieras that came through. He took the 2nd place, and then Ruben Ruzafa held on for 3rd.
Well, on the women's side, it was a dominating performance by 4-time world champion Flora Duffy. She's come back from injury. She missed it last year, and she certainly wanted to make a point. She came out of the swim with a minute lead on the chasing group, and then she cycled 6 minutes quicker and had the fastest run of the day as well by 3 minutes. So she won in a time of 2:49.23. Just dominated that performance entirely. But there was an impressive 2nd place performance by Leslie Patterson. She was well clear of the rest of the field with a really strong bike and run to finish in a time of 3:03. But then the battle really was on for the bronze. So Helena Urbanova managed to hold off towards the latter stages of the run and stay strong as she finished on the podium for her final performance actually as a pro. So a really nice way to go out for her, but it was a serious battle for that bronze medal position.
But also this weekend we had Ironman Malaysia. Now this was just a male-only pro race, but we had a very notable athlete taking part, Javier Gomez. And he actually went on to take the win, and not just win it, he also set a new run course record, which has stood since around 2006. And he posted a time of 8 hours and 18 minutes, and the run course 2 hours and 54. 2nd place went to Philip Kootenay, and 3rd place went to Tiago Vinhal.
Well, there was also racing over New Zealand at Ironman 70.3 Waco, and the men's field was won by Sam Appleton from Australia. 2nd place went to Andrew Starkovich, and 3rd was Joe Gambles.
And in the women's race, it was Jackie Herring that took the win. 2nd went to Jenny Seymour, and 3rd went to Alyssa Dola.
And then we had Ironman 70.3 Marrakesh over in Morocco, and that was won by Kevin Morel from France on the men's side. Alberto Molins was second and Arthur Hosso was third.
Over on the women's side, it was Lisa Huteler that took the win. Second went to Judith Kurishan, and third went to Małgorzata Hotwarowska. Got there, I think.
You did, awesome. And we also had some World Cup racing over in Miyazaki. And the elite men's race was won by Matthew McCory from the USA. His teammate Eli Hemmings was second, and third was Hella Greens.
Well, over in the women's side, it was A. Ueda that took the win in the women's, and second went to Claire Mitchell, and third went to Valerie Bartolome.
And we also had some racing at the Military World Games, and there were some quite impressive athletes we noticed on the podium here. So that was actually held over in China. In the men's race, it was Pierre Lecour, of France, who won it, with Martin Van Rael in second and Dorian Connex in third.
Yeah, and notably actually in fifth and sixth, we had the Polyansky brothers, and also people may remember the name Alexandra Brukenkov, who has got on the podium at the ITU World Champs, I think back in 2009. He was back down in 13th place, so it just shows the level of competition at these games.
It's amazing how many ITU athletes are actually supported by the military as well.
Oh, definitely. And over on the women's side, we had Yolanda Annan taking the win. Second went to Elena Danilova, and third to Victoria Lopez.
It's time to have a look at your photos, and now we are heading for our first one over to Thailand. And this one's been sent in from Michael, who's in Krabi, southern Thailand. He says, training alone on my regular 50k loop, taking the beautiful sights that my province has to offer.
And he's on his Neil Pride TT setup. Now, Neil Pride is actually, well, I remember it as it's a windsurfing brand, and they seem to get into cycling, do bikes, bike bags. I don't know if they still exist, but yeah, really cool looking bike.
It's nice to see something a bit different, isn't it? Well, our next one comes in from Pablo. We're going indoors now. I think it's going to be quite a common theme going forward as we hit winter. And he says, hey guys, here's where I'm pushing all the watts. I like this bit though, never been so tidy and sweat-free. So thought it'd be a perfect opportunity to share it with the GTN community.
I do exactly the same, Pablo, so don't blame you. That does look very neat.
Yeah, and I also, looks like you've been to Nice. I like that poster from the IMI 70.3 World Champs.
Very nice. That's a nice poster. Yeah, next one in from Simon, and this is from Walnut Creek in California. He said, I just had my first Ironman DNF, so revamping the Pain Cave to have a more successful trip in Ironman Wales in 2020. That is quite a trip, but I guess the 10th anniversary in Ironman Wales, pretty tough course, just in case you weren't aware. He said he has his Peloton treadmill alongside his Roubaix on a Cyclops hammer with Zwift, GTN for entertainment, and photos for a more successful trip to Tenby in 2020 as inspiration for next year.
Yeah, well, I mean, I personally would be going from Wales to California to do a full Ironman, not the other way around. So I'm impressed with that, and I'm also impressed that you've kind of got that motivation, plus the fact you've been an avid fan of the show since episode 3. That's dedication. I like it.
Brilliant. And now our final one is actually a bit of a try DIY. We don't get too many of these sent in, so if you have done any try DIY, anything fancy to your bikes, shoes, anything, send it in to us using our photo uploader. This one's sent in by Amori, I think that's how I say it. This is his Nash Bar bike, it's an aluminium frame, size 48. And I actually sent it in from Islamabad, Pakistan, and he's made a few modifications. Yeah,
so it's basically, he's adapted his road bike to a more of an aerodynamic time trial bike in the most cost-efficient ways. He's reiterated several times throughout this message of basically saying he still gets to stay married after these alterations. So if you have a closer look, you can probably see that there's quite an obvious change in the position. So he's got a new seat post with an ISM saddle on top of that. He's also, you can see, removed his 2 original bottle cages, and he's put on instead the Elite Aero bottle cage and bottle. And then there's the most significant change at the front end. He's got the Profile Design TT Aero bars mounted onto his handlebars.
Yeah, very nice. As with before, do send in all your photos using our photo uploader. Link is just below. Well, to finish things off this week, it is the GTN Caption Competition. Last week's photo was of a rather bright chap blowing the horn.
Yeah, we had a lot of really mixed suggestions, which is brilliant, and we've narrowed it down to our favourite 4. So to start us off, we've got one from Matthias de Wolf, who says Triathlon 101, how to blow the competition away on the bike leg.
Very good. Jerry Nyson said most people blow up after the bike rather than at the start of it.
That was a close runner-up, and then our final runner-up comes from Rohan Mehta, who says trying to prove that he has a better lung capacity and VO2 max than the athletes.
Nice. The winner this week goes to Matthew Roberts. Said when you finally fall asleep and the alarm goes off at 3:30 a.m. on a race day.
Know that feeling.
Yeah, it's not nice. But now for this week's Caption Competition. This comes from Miyazaki ITU World Cup, where, well, looks like someone's going the wrong way.
Yeah, it's like doing some running drills. Maybe she wants to use her glutes and she's doing some reverse running or something. Who knows? But it's good running form anyway.
Maybe our coach said there's no wrong way to swim. Don't know. Yeah, anyway. Leave your Caption Comp suggestions in the comment section below.
Well, that might be it for this week's show, but we still have plenty more coming on the channel as the week goes on, and we have certainly not forgotten that it's Halloween just around the corner. Yeah, so keep an eye out for something special there. We've also got a behind-the-scenes Perks for the Pros video coming up and plenty more.
And also, head on over to the GTN shop. We've got loads of stuff there now, including our lovely GTN Kona t-shirts, and you can find the link for that somewhere on screen right now. And also, do not forget to check out the GTN versus GCN challenge. Heather and Maya from GCN Espanol, big showdown, very exciting. You see that by clicking just down here.
And if you want to see Mark drinking beer and apparently doing a little bit of running, well, you can check out the Beer Mile vlog down here. And don't forget to click on the globe to subscribe and give us a thumbs up if you've enjoyed this.